Welcome to Sisterhood Sessions.
Join us on the couch every Thursday to talk about love, dating, happiness, and everything in between
From a Gen Z
and a millennial perspective.
We are your internet sisters, and we're all about entertaining, motivating, and inspiring you.
Now let's get into it. Hi, everybody.
Welcome back.
We're so excited you're joining us again this week.
And this week, we are talking about confidence.
Yeah.
It's so much more than just physical or what people
100%.
associate the word confidence with. Mm-hmm. There's so much to it.
Yeah, there really is. I guess a good way to start is by talking about the origin of the word confidence, which comes from, don't laugh at me, I like
She
it.
always knows the origins of everything.
I like language. So it comes from the word, and I'll probably butcher the pronunciation of this. Actually, can I? Because it's a dead language. We don't know what they sounded like. But I'm going to go with fidere, which means to trust one's self. So self-trust is the root of the word for confidence. But I think what's really interesting and what we're going to talk about is that because it is such an overarching term, we're going to break it down into 4 different categories. We're going to talk about social confidence, confidence in expertise, confidence physically, and self-worth.
So much under the umbrella of confidence.
So much under the umbrella, way more than those 4, sort of sub-points, but those are definitely a good start. So
yeah,
let's start with social confidence.
Yeah, so that is how you interact with people, interact with those around you. It's body language, which is one, like you can't see right now, but Sophie's leg is crossed towards me. That means she's like comfortable and confident being around me.
Yeah.
My legs are I'm a half crisscross applesauce. I'm just
But I think essentially social confidence is how you feel when you are around other people, whether that's in a group setting at school, at university, at work, when you're at a party, all of those things. And it can be a really stressful position to be in if you're not, a naturally confident person. You touched on body image. That's a big one. Body language.
It's body images.
We'll get to that later. Body language, the way you carry yourself in everyday life, the way you hold yourself. What was always drilled into me as a child and a teenager was to stand up straight, square your shoulders, don't hunch because that makes you look uncomfortable in situations. It gives the impression that you're making yourself small. Yeah. So that's a really one that I focus on a lot is my posture when I'm in public. And I find, the more I stand up straight, it helps me internally feel like I'm, present in the moment and that I'm capable of taking anything on. And another big one is eye contact.
Mm-hmm. Holding that says so much. Mm-hmm. Like, your eyes say so much, and if you can hold eye contact with someone, or if you're constantly looking and shying away, that speaks volumes in terms of how you feel around that person.
Mm-hmm.
We could do a staring contest, and I'd feel totally fine.
We'd feel totally fine, but when you're meeting new people, it's a scary thing to do to look at them in the eyes, but it gives a really good impression of you if you are able to actually hold eye contact when you're having a conversation with somebody.
Yeah, confidence as a whole is still something I'm very much working on. And around others, it's still something I'm very much navigating. Mm-hmm. I'm quiet until, someone else takes the initiative, and then, I don't shut up. But, I have a hard time being the one to kind of be the initiator and, put my foot forward. Mm-hmm. Be the first one to be like, hey, how are you doing? The first one to talk. I very much kind of make myself tall until I'm given a little bit of space to be allowed to be comfortable and put myself out there. that's something I'm navigating, is creating that space initially for myself to go forward with everything.
Totally. And I think in your remind everybody you're 21. I was very much the same way. You know, I was a precocious child. I was always sort of wanting to be the center of attention. I loved performing arts, and I was super comfortable being on a stage in front of a ton of people. And then a number of things happened to me in my teenage years and in my early 20s that really just snuffed out any self-confidence that I had. And so I had to build that back up. And it took a really long time, but I'm the sort of person now where I'm more than happy to start a social interaction. I talk to strangers all the time, and I really enjoy it. It's part of my personality. It's part of who I am. And I think what makes me really happy is that it reminds me of my inner child. You know, I feel connected to my inner child because that's who I was when I was a kid. A funny story. I love this story. My mom tells me this story all the time. So I grew up in Asia as a kid. And obviously blonde, blue-eyed, so I stuck out like a sore thumb. And a lot of people wanted to take pictures of me when they saw me out and about. And it got to a point when I was 2-3 years old where I just assumed that whenever there was a camera, they wanted to take a photo of me. So I would just insert myself into family photos.
Like all the time. Just
Oh, we'll have to check the home videos and see if we can find any footage of that we can share. That'd be so funny.
Or if you at all out there have a family photo,
Yes.
whatever it is, and there's a little tiny blonde girl featured and you don't know who she is or where she came
Probably
from.
me.
She just inserted herself into that situation. Let us know.
I would
Send
love to know how many family albums I'm in.
Like, what if people still have these photos kept somewhere?
They
Because it was so
could.
funny.
They really could.
Like, what if they someday just make their way back to you?
I would love that. Okay, internet, do your work, please.
Do your thing. We know you're capable.
Oh man, but yeah, I totally feel like finally now, you know, in my early 30s, I'm reconnected with who I was meant to be before all of this stuff happened.
Yeah, it's actually interesting you say that, is going to acting school as a kid. Like, I garnered a lot of confidence, really comfortable on camera. I'm confident in front of the camera, but also kind of like throughout high school there's the fear and pressure of just being judged by everyone you're around, where I felt like I had to kind of like make myself smaller. Otherwise people would be like, who does this girl think she is? If I was, you know, just more out there and more confident. And also being a 21-year-old in this world, if like I'm at a place where I know I can't really speak out about certain things, because people will just be like, well, like, you're younger than me, like, you don't even know what you're talking about. We kind of had this experience with like an old friend of ours where like there was some things I wanted to say, but I felt like I couldn't voice it because for the simple fact that I'm younger and knew that I would be shut down. So I've kind of like lost a bit of my confidence through that, being like, oh, well, people are gonna bring my age into this and say I don't know anything about this topic or that topic, or so I'm like, I've kind of lost that ability to express myself as much as I would like, simply for my age.
Yeah, it can be extremely confidence destroying when you don't feel heard and you don't feel like you have when people don't give you the space to express yourself. And I think, you know, despite your age, you're super smart, you're super interesting, and you have so much value. You really do. Yeah.
But a lot of people don't see that, or they don't want to see that, or even feel threatened by that, which can make it hard to kind of step out of your comfort zone, say things that matter to you, put yourself into a space that you belong in, even if other people don't want to give you that space.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
And I feel like with that, we could even go to talking about it like in the workplace.
Yeah.
Is I feel like I definitely can't speak up to, you know, senior people in whatever workplace I'm in simply because I'm younger than them and lack experience, and they'll be like, who are you? Now, that's fair. I'm definitely not experienced in life at all. Once again, I'm in my 20s. I'm not experienced in life. But yeah, that doesn't mean I don't add value to anything. That doesn't mean I have an invalid opinion. So I feel like in my workplace especially, like I lose that confidence just because I don't want to be like the fear of being stepped over, but also losing that confidence, you end up being stepped over.
Yeah, 100%. The workplace is like, it's such an intense environment, and there's so much pressure on you to perform and to do well. And particularly when you enter a new workplace, it's really hard to find your place. So that's the next point. So we're going to call it like expertise, confidence and expertise, but it's essentially any environment where you're doing something that you're trained to do. So we'll focus on the workplace for this one. To go off of what you were saying, I had an experience once where I started working at a restaurant, and my goal when I joined a new workplace is to always, make a great first impression, show that I'm really happy and grateful to be there. I try to get to know the team really early on. I make it a point to form those social connections within the workplace. It matters to me that the people that I work with like me, like to work with me, and know that they can rely on me, and that I'm there to be a team player. That's a massive one for me, right? And so I started at this new workplace, and I thought everything was going really, really well. And I was called into a meeting with two managers, one of whom was a female manager, and she said some things to me that were incredibly hurtful. She said that I had a negative attitude, that she was concerned that I would contribute to a toxic workplace, that I would mistreat the people I was working with. And I was frankly lost for words. If people know me in real life, that's not who I am, but that was the first impression that my then boss had of me. And it was really, it killed my confidence. This was maybe about 3 weeks in, and it totally killed my confidence. And what that ended up doing is that I wasn't performing as well. I wasn't being myself, because now I was afraid that I was being perceived by everybody else in the same light. And yeah, I was frozen and I was stuck, and I remember feeling so uncomfortable and so
like anxious being in that space.
So anxious. I had a pit in my stomach whenever I went to work, and I just thought, oh my God, like, this is not me. Like, this is not who I am. Like, but I felt paralyzed by it, truly.
And well, yeah, because once again, like, we are both in the service industry, and I feel like, yeah, the power dynamic there is just, it can be so icky, is the word I want to use. Like, you come into a space and you're confident, but like it's not to get confused with arrogance here, because I feel like that's where she might have kind of been wrong and had some insecurities in herself, where she felt threatened by someone coming in here. Being confident with herself in this workplace was kind and was making all these friends initially, where she took that to heart, felt threatened, and tried to tear you down for it.
I'll never know what the motivations were, and frankly, I'm not interested, but it was one of those moments where I had to really, like, it shook me for a long time, and then I really had to sit with myself, and this is the thing I came to realize, is that you have no control over how other people are going to perceive you. You have zero control over how other people think of you, of the first impression that you're going to make. And the way that they perceive you is often based on their own biases, their experiences that they've had throughout their lives. But because it's out of your control, it's something that you cannot let impact you. You just have to decide in your mind, that's okay. It's okay if other people think of me that way. I know in my heart that that's not who I am. All I can do is consider whether there was any truth to it, and if there was, take that on board as some sort of, like positive criticism. What do you call that? Do you know what I mean? Like when somebody, like, constructive criticism is the word I'm looking for.
Oh, yeah.
Constructive criticism. But if there isn't any truth to it, then the only thing you can do is keep being yourself and keep doing what you're doing and just move on. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You might have to work with that person for a while, or maybe it'll be a year, maybe it'll be 2 years, whatever situation you're in. But it's not forever. And you have to think of your life in sort of this like bigger picture moment where things are temporary, right? And you cannot carry that with you into all the seasons of your life. Leave it where it was. It was a moment that you had no control over. You know that it doesn't represent you. Leave it behind.
Yeah. Kind of going back to, because I just thought of this. I also had experience in work where I was being given all these, extra duties. I was given keys so I could close up the workplace. I was called a shift leader. I was in charge of people. And I wasn't being compensated for it.
Ooh.
Which was huge. I went for months just making just above minimum wage because I'd been there for a while, where I got like a 50-cent raise like a few months ago just because I became a little bit more experienced than other people I was working with. But I was making very, very little for being a key holder and essentially like on a tier of management for this workplace. And I was scared and didn't have the confidence to reach out to my manager and be like, I deserve financial compensation for the work I am doing. And it also didn't help that they were on vacation. So they basically flew away. They're like, oh, well, we need someone to like lock up. We're not here. Here, Sarah, here's keys. You're doing this now because you work with the closing team all these days. Here, you take the keys. You can close up the shop. I was like 19 years old, key holder of this restaurant, and wasn't being financially compensated for it. And I kept struggling. I kept going into work every day being like, I'm going to sit down with my manager like once they came back and ask for a raise because I deserve it. But I was too afraid to.
Oh my God.
Because once, I'm a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
I
don't blame you.
It'd be so easy to replace me. Mm-hmm. At the same time, not, because everyone else I was working with was younger than me, or like there's a couple people older than me, like I was kind of in a middle ground there. But it was at a place where I'm so easy replaceable, where if they didn't want to pay me the extra couple bucks, they could easily just fire me, even though I deserved it. So I like struggled, and eventually a couple months later, I think it was 2 months after they got back, this was like 3 months of me being paid not what I should have been for the duties I was doing, where they finally were like, oh, thank you so much for taking on this role, Sarah. Like, we'll give you a raise. I was like, I should have gotten this from the very start. The moment you handed me the keys, it should have been like, by the way, you're getting this extra financial compensation for the extra responsibilities you're doing. Where to all of you, if you are given more responsibilities than what you initially signed on for in a workplace, you deserve financial compensation for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But it's so hard, essentially being a child, putting your foot down and asking for what you deserve.
Nobody teaches us this stuff.
Mm-mm.
Well, I think I'm going to go further out on a limb here and say, like, as women, we are not taught to walk in the door, look our boss in the eyes and say, hey, I want a raise. Mm-hmm. When I was offered a bar manager position a few years ago, I knew what my predecessor was getting paid. And when I asked how much I would be getting paid were I to accept the position, it was significantly less. Significantly less. And so I looked at them in the eyes and I said, no, I'm not taking the position because you are not going to, I know you are not compensating me in the same way that you were compensating my male predecessor. And that's not okay with me. So I just didn't take it. But it's a crazy thing, right? We're not taught to stand up for ourselves. We're not taught to demand things the way that, I'm generalizing, but a lot of men do. They're okay with that, with putting themselves forward. And so that's something that I really had to learn. And you were mentioning it earlier, standing up for yourself in the workplace. You know I do that. And I stand up for others too. I stand up for others too. When I see an injustice, when I see something that doesn't please me, when I see something that's unfair, because I've cultivated the ability to stand up for myself, I have the ability to now stand up for others with their permission. I would never do it without speaking to them first. And I'm proud of that. And I'm proud of myself for getting to that point, but it took a lot of work, and it's uncomfortable. But I think the more you put yourself in these uncomfortable situations,
the easier it becomes. It's
easier it
all
becomes.
about stepping out of your comfort zone.
It's practice.
And I've learned so much that, I mean, if something like that were to come up again, I would still definitely struggle. But I feel like I would be a step up from where I was before, and I would be able to like at least have a meeting and be like, what's going on here? I don't know if I could fully say, give me what I deserve, but if they don't, upon a really kind little conversation about it, I might just be like, here's my 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Peace, sayonara.
Well, I deserve more. You deserve more. You deserve what you're owed.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
But it's so hard to ask for that. Being both young and a woman on either spectrum or both together.
Yeah.
That is difficult.
It's really difficult. I think the final thing I want to add to this particular subcategory, something that I have struggled with my entire life, is the fear of failure. It's a huge one for me. I carry a lot of guilt and a lot of insecurity with me because of the fact that I never graduated from university, and because I didn't actively seek out opportunities for myself in my 20s, and I didn't accept opportunities that were sent my way. And so I was very embarrassed towards my late 20s that I was still in the service industry after all of these years, when I was looking around at my peers and they all had degrees and they all had quote unquote careers and things. And that really plagued me for a really long time. And it got to the point where when I was talking to people, I felt the need, what do you do for work? I felt the need to like defend myself almost and say, I work in the service industry, but I also know how to do all this stuff, I can do this and I can do that. And it was so unnecessary. And it took me a long time to come to peace and to kind of think back on it and go, yeah, my trajectory hasn't been linear, and it hasn't been the way I imagined it would have gone at 21. And it certainly didn't go the way my parents anticipated my life would go. But it went the way I made it. It went the way I felt comfortable with. And it's something I'm super proud of now, that I lived life on my terms.
And it also gave you the ability to see so much of the world and experience so many different places and cultures that people going to school and university, like, sure, they can go and travel, but they will never get the same experience as you did.
Yeah.
Which I think is super,
Very
super
true.
powerful. And, like, you both contribute to society in such different ways.
Absolutely.
Sure, your friend might become a lawyer and they're maybe signing your legal documents, but you can offer them so much, like, worldly perspective. Or help translating in another language that you picked up. Like, there's so much value that it brings, even if you didn't follow the cookie cutter recipe everyone wants you to. And I feel like that can even go into, like, societal pressure.
Yeah.
Because everyone wants you, like, the world expects you to go to school. If you have access to an education, you are expected to go to college, go to university, go to post-secondary, figure out your life and get into a quote-unquote career, which is so unfair and so like unrealistic. I remember I was a cashier at 16 years old. I had someone coming through my till trying to talk about, oh, what are you gonna do when you're done high school? I was like, oh, I don't know yet. He's like, you don't know? I knew what I wanted to do when I was 12 years old. I was like, okay, like, sorry I don't have a plan to go to university, but I don't need one. Like, not everyone's life path will follow that or has to follow that.
And that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to forge your own path and live your life on your own terms. It absolutely is, and it's something we should both be proud of. And I will say, I love my job. I love working in the service industry.
Getting to see so many people and characters on a daily basis.
Yeah. And I'm proud of what I do. And I'm proud, I'm proud, I'm proud of what I do. I think I'll leave it there. But I will say, just to finish up this particular segment, because I started talking about the fear of failure, that this project
is you stepping out of your comfort zone.
It's me stepping out of my comfort zone. This is what I was afraid of doing. Putting myself out there and talking about the things I've learned along the way. But I'm really lucky to have a friend like you to help me with it. But anyway, this is your sign. If there's something you've been thinking about doing for a really, really long time and you're unsure, you're feeling, like maybe you can't do it, nobody wants to listen to you, your voice doesn't matter. That's not true. We want to hear from you, and now's the time. Take the leap. Just do it.
Do it. Life is short. Life is so short.
It sure is.
Do what you love.
Yeah.
Do what you love. Oh, I feel like that can't be stressed enough. And it's such a scary thought. It's like so much easier said than done. But do it.
Do it. Do it.
Do it. Do it. We're holding you to it. That rhymes.
Let's move on to our next segment. Confidence in your physical appearance. I'm thinking about the physical now because we're in Vancouver and it's so hot right now.
Apparently it's hotter than LA.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, nobody has air conditioning in the city, so that's fun.
Well, a lot of people do now.
They do, just not us. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So many things that fall under this category.
And it's also like, we're also conventionally, like we're blonde-haired, blue-eyed females.
Yeah.
Talking about a subject of like confidence in the physical. So that's also something to really take in consideration because our experience will never be like so many others.
Yeah. We fit into that particular box, I guess, but I think what's important to remember is that we're all human, and whether you look one way or another, it doesn't preclude you from having body image issues or being affected by societal beauty standards. Everybody's experience is valid, right? So we're going to share ours.
You want to go first?
I'll go first. So one thing that I'm really struggling with now is cystic acne. I don't really speak about it a lot because it makes me really uncomfortable. I had great skin as a teenager. I had great skin in my 20s. And unfortunately, I was diagnosed with a medical issue that meant that the contraceptive pill that I was taking at the time was no longer going to be safe for me to take. And so they switched me to a different one. And the immediate side effects were cystic acne. And I've been struggling with it for 1.5 years. And I'm somebody who now is like confident in the way that I look. I really I feel great about myself, but then this happened and it's
It's been a learning curve.
It's been a learning curve, 100%. It's been really hard to deal with, and there are days where I will literally cry, days where I will spend hours picking at my skin, and trying to figure out how to cover it with makeup, trying all sorts of different skincare products, spending a ton of money on those. It's not making a difference, and I'm kind of at a loss. I don't know what to do about it. And yeah, so I'm in a really vulnerable place, and it's been really hard to deal with for me.
I also had a brief acne struggle in high school, and I'm honestly really grateful because I know people that have had it so much worse than me, but I had very, very textured skin. I was very uncomfortable with it, that by the time I was in grade 12, my skin cleared up, and I was like, I wonder what the biggest difference has been, like in the last few years of me, like, you know, physically changing. And I had someone be like, your acne. And I was like, cool, glad to know it was that noticeable. But I mean, at the same time, I was relieved because at that point it had kind of cleared up. Mm-hmm. But I still struggle with it around like hormonal cycles. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, I am having a hard time feeling totally confident being makeup free. And I know you also feel
I'm
this
also
way.
that way.
I look like a child, like a little baby without makeup.
You look so cute without makeup.
I don't know. I feel like I look like a completely different person. Well, no, I don't want to say completely different person. I'm not catfishing here, but I look like I look 12. I'll put it that way. But I feel like I look a lot younger, and I don't fully like it. Like, I feel comfortable like in my own house, just like not having the makeup on feels so nice. But I feel the need when I go out to put a face of makeup on. And I feel like, honestly, that also stems from my mother, who I would see every single morning put her quote-unquote face on, as she would like to call it. And so just little by little, the later years of elementary school, when I was like 12, 13, I would start putting makeup products on when I could, like whether that be like a little bit of CC or BB cream, a little clear mascara, which didn't do anything. But I would slowly start putting makeup on until I built up a face routine, a makeup routine, and I kept that going, and that's my normal. Now, I don't fully hate how I look without makeup. I honestly couldn't get anything permanent done in terms of like microblading, or I've done lash extensions once, didn't work for me, and also I didn't really like them because I like being either a makeup free face where I just feel more like youthful and cute, I guess, which I'm still coming to terms with thinking of myself. I have a hard time saying that. Or where I have my makeup on and I feel more pretty for society standards, and where I yeah
I guess my struggle with makeup, I didn't really try makeup until I was, I think, 14. Wasn't ever something that really crossed my mind. I was a pretty tomboyish kid. And I vividly remember the first time my best friend at the time handed me her eyeliner and showed me how to put it on. And I put it on, and I remember thinking, oh my God, I look so bad. I hate this. And like trying to scrub it off, and then you have that sort of like, it's still there the next day because you don't really know how to wash your face. And I went out in public, and all of a sudden everyone was like, wow, you look so pretty today. And that was the start of it for me, was the external validation that I received from putting makeup on became like a drug. It became like it's something I depended on to feel good about myself. And I was so scared that if anybody saw me without it on, that they would think that I was ugly. Because I you know, from the age of 10 to 15, I had big glasses. I had the braces, like really typical, like, I don't know, nerdy girl look. And like my nose was too big for my face. And I was still growing into my features. And I was never looked at that way. I was never the pretty girl. And so all of a sudden, when I noticed that this eyeliner can do something so significant for me, that suddenly now the boys are looking at me on the school bus and the popular girls are like, oh, do you want to come sit with us? And I'm like, this is amazing. Where do I get more? Right? But what it did is that it just totally killed the confidence of me liking my bare face. I'm still learning now at 32 to like be okay with it. And the acne is not helping. It's really not helping because I want to cover it. So I'm still really struggling with that one.
Yeah, it's getting that external validation where you lose the internal. And it sucks.
It does suck because I think it's such an important journey to be on. To look, external validation's nice. It's nice no matter which way you put it. But the minute you start relying on that is the minute it goes to shit. Because you will never be satisfied with the way you look. If you end up getting plastic surgery done, with which all the power to you, if you want to do that, that's totally fine. But if you're doing it for external validation, if you're getting the eyelash extensions, getting your lips injected, if you're dressing a certain way, the minute you do it for others, that's when things go wrong. The internal work needs to happen first. You will never be satisfied unless it's coming from you. Yeah.
Now talking like a little bit about face, I think we should also dive English. Wow. Dive into body image. I struggle with that. Now, I have a chest. I am on the petite side, but I don't like my body. And we live in a time where, social media, you see the fittest of the fit, the tiniest girls with hourglass figures, which also, they're not, you don't come by hourglass figures all that often. They're not usually natural. They look great. I'm not going to deny that, but they're not usually natural. A lot of that is normally implants or fillers or some reduction here and there. But it got to a point where I was super confident when I was a little kid, not seeing that. And then as I was growing up as a teen, just being on social media, seeing the beauty standard, seeing these different body sizes, especially for North American beauty standards, which are completely different. But you see, the Kardashians, which are BBLs and implants, but that becomes the beauty standard that everyone looks up to, and then all of a sudden that's who everyone in your high school finds hot. How do I compare? I don't look like that. What am I doing wrong? Doesn't matter how much you work out or what you eat and what your diet looks like. Your body will look how it's meant to look. Now, of course, I'm gonna say eat healthy. It's all about balance. Work out. You're told when you're a kid, work out 30 minutes a day. That's healthy for you. Cardio, it's healthy for your heart. So do these things. Stay active in some capacity. But it's so hard accepting yourself and your body if you don't look how everyone on social media wants you to look. And because also, if I were to go, all of a sudden get a butt implant, that's not gonna fix how I look. So I'm okay, well, look, what else is wrong with me? Because now, this doesn't look great.
It's a slippery slope.
It's such a slippery slope. And I'm still very much in a place where I'm learning to accept myself and accept my body. I also saw a quote a while ago, and I'm definitely paraphrasing it because I just barely remember it. But life is too short. I think it was in regards to going to the beach. Life is too short to not spend a nice day at the beach in a bikini because of what you're afraid other people will be looking at or how people will perceive you. Life's too, if you want to wear a crop top, if you want to wear a bikini, you want to go to the beach, fuck it. It doesn't matter what. I might have to bleep that out. But like, it doesn't matter what anyone else is going to think of you, because you're going to just resent later on, if not that day, not going to the beach because of how other people or even how yourself will perceive you. Mm-hmm. Wear that bikini, wear that crop top, wear whatever you want to wear. It like, don't cover up on a super hot day where you are boiling because you're scared of what other people will think.
Okay, I heard this on a podcast. I can't remember which one, but if I find it, I'll link it. But the girl she said this. She's like, hey, remember that person that like was breathing in a really annoying way next to you on the bus? Or that person that you thought had a really annoying laugh? Or whatever it was. Do you remember them? Do you remember what day it was? Do you remember what they looked like? No, you don't. You don't. It's a momentary thought that somebody might have that disappears as quickly as it entered their mind. So is that going to stop you from living your life?
Well, that's the thing. Like it could, like I could, you know, be on the beach. Someone be like, I've seen better or whatever. And then like they'll look at some girl with, you know, they'll look somewhere else and be like, ooh, fascinating. They'll forget all about you.
It's so temporary. It's a fleeting thought that somebody might or might not have. And to stop yourself from living your life based on the possibility of that potentially or maybe happening, it's not worth it.
Also, they're not in your circle. They're not in your realm. They're not in your world. They don't matter. And because they're not in yours, you're not in theirs. They're going to look elsewhere. They're not going to care about you. They're not going to remember that. Like, live your life to its true extent. Wear what you want to wear. And just love your body. Love your curves. Love your stretch marks. It tells a story.
Love your little itty bitty boobs.
Or your ones that don't like to fit in clothes. Like, it's so hard to shop.
Love your height. Mm-hmm. Oh, that was a big one for me. You know this about me, my friends call me SJP because I love wearing heels, and the obsession started when I was 15, 16 years old, and I was invited to my first version of a prom, Australian version of a prom. It's called a formal. And I didn't know how to walk in them. And so I had a really long hallway in my house. And every day after school, I would put the heels on and I would walk like the catwalk up and down until I got so comfortable in heels. And I realized, whoa, this makes my legs look nice. And also I'm tall now. I wore heels everywhere. Everywhere.
You still do a lot of the time.
I still do a lot, but like not as bad. I actually own flat shoes now, which is progress. But that was a big thing. I was really embarrassed. I'm 5'2". I don't know inches and feet. I'm 163 centimeters. You can Google the conversion. But anyway, I hated being short, and now I love it. I love it.
What was also super weird is I'm 5'5", and that's average female height. Mm-hmm. Also, like, whether you're short and you're adorable and you're cute and you're small, or you're tall and you're like model worthy, like gorgeous any which way. Mm-hmm. But I remember growing up, I had people that were younger than me, but were also, one of them was a dude I was growing up with. He was a year younger than me, and he started growing taller than me. He was like, you're short now. Like, made me really insecure at the time. I'm like, I'm being called short. Like, I never felt that way. And like, suddenly it was a competition for who the taller one was. Also, you're a dude. Like, the chance of you being taller are far more likely because of your genetics. So that was something to kind of come over. I mean, thankfully that was something that didn't really affect me for too long. As soon as I got into high school and everyone was my height, or pretty well. And I was like, okay, like, this is normal. I'm not short and I'm not any lesser like this person was trying to make me feel. But like, there's so, like, also little things people say, or like a one-off comment can also really stick with you. Like the one comment of being told, like, oh, I'm short now. That affected me for a little while. It's crazy how things stick.
It's true.
I also want to paraphrase, or go back a little bit, take a step back. I can't speak English today. Like, whatever you may be insecure about, like, take time with it. Like, look to see where it brought you. Like, if you have a tummy, it's adorable. If you gave birth and maybe you have a little bit more there than what you did before you had a child, that tells a story. You birthed a human. That is magical. That is magical. I know so many women that have given birth that don't like their tummies anymore. And it upsets me. Like, that tells a story.
It really does.
You did a magical thing.
If you don't know who the bird's papaya is, she is one of the most inspiring women I don't know her, but that I follow on social media, and she tackles a lot of these issues, these body image issues. And that's an interesting thing for me, is like, I noticed that social media was making me really insecure, because I was being shown images of, beautiful, stunning women that I wasn't ever going to measure up to. And it made me feel anxious and defeated and unworthy of love and attention. And so I curated my social media, and I went through, and I unfollowed anybody who made me feel lesser than. And by the way, these women are stunning and gorgeous and whatever else, and they're excellent creators. But for my own mental health, I just had to remove from, make sure I wasn't seeing that every day. And instead, I followed creators who championed positive body image, older women, gray hair, wrinkles, actual, how you normally age, which we rarely see in the media. People who did cool things, like who cooked amazing dishes, and people who had hobbies that they were great at, people who trained their dogs really well, and so now when I open my Instagram, I see my friends and what they're up to, and then I see people who inspire me. Vancouver.
Typical day in Vancouver.
So now, when I open my Instagram feed, I see people who inspire me, along with my friends. I see, beauty in all its shapes and sizes and forms, and I learn, and I am entertained, and that's exactly what I want it to be for me,
I feel like it's such an underrated thing to do, especially for people my age. You don't have to be following them just because they're the biggest influencer right now, or they're this person or that person. Like, if you don't like what you see, or if you open your phone and you see that and automatically you are like, oh, I don't look like that, or like, I know if I had to wear that outfit, I wouldn't look the same. If you had any small little thought like that, remove them. You don't need them. Like, what? They're going to lose a follower? You're going to lose someone that doesn't impact you in any positive way? Sounds like a win in my book. Follow people that inspire you, that you actually look up to, that are good representations of real people,
and creators that align with your values. That's a big win, a really big win.
Yeah.
I think we'll touch on our last point here. Our last category, and that's self-worth. That to me is potentially the most impactful one, long term. Because if you don't address it, it can impact your entire life. I think one of the worst things you can do for yourself is talk to yourself in a negative way. You know, you make a mistake and you go, oh God, I'm so stupid. Or you wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror and go, I look like shit. You know, all of these things that we say to ourselves, our brain registers. And the more you hear it, the more you bully yourself, because that's what you're doing. You're bullying yourself. The more you do that, the more it erodes at your self-confidence and
the more you perceive that as being the truth. It's amazing what like positive affirmations can do for you. And also I love Leo Skepi and his podcast. I've been watching that like religiously every single Sunday. I know he posts. I go and watch it. He had an episode about that where something really stuck to me is also just like switching your mindset in the littlest ways and just switching the way you word things. So whether it's like, instead of saying, oh, I'm so stupid, putting you feel in there. Like I feel not the smartest today. Like I feel a little dumb today. You can just switch
reframe it in your mind.
Putting these like negative, because don't associate yourself with being stupid, because you're not. You might have a little brain fart where you feel that way for a split second, but that's a feeling. That's not who you are. So don't define yourself as these certain things when they're momentary. They're momentary. I can't words. It's so hot.
It's
My
too
brain
hot.
Isn't working.
Your brain is sweating.
It really is.
I totally agree with that. I think it's really important to be extremely cautious about the way you speak to yourself. Mm-hmm. Extremely cautious. I think the next thing is learning how to stand up for yourself. Mm-hmm. That's a massive one. We touched on that briefly when we were talking about in the workplace, but I think it's even more important to learn how to stand up for yourself and to know what you deserve in your interpersonal relationships, your family, your friends, and your romantic partners. Mm-hmm. Huge one, massive one. And we can do a deep dive on that in another episode, but I think learning how to speak up and to,
set boundaries.
Yeah. That's a huge one.
It's so important. Even when it comes to, strangers in your life, like whether you're I had this experience I was telling you about a couple months ago, as I had someone like asking for my number in the bar. So I bumped into him previously. He asked for he bought me a shot. I was like, hey, I'll give you my Instagram. We'll exchange. That's not gonna go. I'm not gonna let that go anywhere. I'm not interested. So we follow each other, and then a couple months later, I just hit the unfollow button. And he sees me again. He's like, oh, hi, it's you. And I'm like, oh, hi, I'm just trying to have a girls' day. Me and my friend are dancing here. And he's like, oh, I don't think we follow each other on Instagram anymore. I was like, oh, crazy. I'm like, well, you know where to find me. You know my at. I'm just trying to have a girls' night. He's like, oh, no, I need your number now. No, I need your number. Instagram's not working. And I was like, oh, okay. And it's so hard. It was so hard to say no. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
I was like, just go. That's another thing. Rejecting a man is terrifying. And I have I don't have the confidence to say no a lot of the time. It's scary because you don't know what's going to come from it. Mm-hmm. Could be aggression. You don't know how bad it could get or just how chill it could be. Oh no, I'm not interested. Some people don't take it that easy. So I gave him my number, and then he texted me the next morning. I was like, Sophie, I don't know what to do. Just send us a little message and block. And so I did. But it's scary saying no, and that's something where I lack the confidence with that. I'm going to be honest. There's still so much I'm learning under that confidence umbrella, and setting boundaries is still something I'm very much learning. I don't have the confidence to do that fully yet.
It's something I struggled a lot with in my 20s as well. And I don't know if you've ever taken a saboteur test. Essentially, it tests the ways in which you self-sabotage. And my main one was people-pleasing. Mm-hmm. And I did that all throughout my 20s. In any way I could bend myself backwards and forwards and sideways in whichever way to make life easier for others, I would. And I would always put myself last. And I'm eye rolling at myself in a kind way. And I'm so glad I kicked that habit. You know, again, it's the sort of thing you need to practice. But I have absolutely no issue saying no now, when I did before. And I think the reason it always results in the way I want it to result now is because when I say, no, thank you, I'm not interested, have a nice day, it comes from a place of such confidence that they don't feel as though there's any point in bothering me any further. And I hope you get to that point soon. Like, I know it takes time.
I kind of did the other day.
You did?
I was trying to phone you. I was having some financial troubles, trying to book a ticket to Australia. So I was trying to phone Sophie. I was like out on the street. I had a dude come up to me. He looked at least like 10 years my senior. And I've been saying no to age gaps. I have bad experiences there. And so I'm like on the phone. I'm like, first of all, I'm clearly busy. So that annoyed me. I'm like, I'm literally on the phone. You're trying to, hey. Like, he's like, hey, like, I was walking with my friend. And I thought you were really cute. And I was like, I'm not interested, but thank you, though. And I just kept walking. I felt kind of rude about it. But I was like, well, it's like, I could be 17 for all I know. People think I'm that age a lot. So if anything, that's on you, buddy. You don't know my story. But it's still freaking hard to do. And if I probably wasn't on the phone to kind of have that be almost a security blanket for I'm busy, I probably would have had a much harder time doing that. I'm like, oh, like, no, like, thanks, I'm not interested. Like, you just kind of get shy and you seem so unsure, or like I seem so unsure when I handle these situations. And it's
You don't owe other people anything. You don't owe other people anything. And this is not to say that you can't handle the interaction with kindness, with respect, by being polite, but it just needs to leave you just need to close that book.
There's no room for me. Like,
There's no room. Look, thank you. I really appreciate you coming up to me. I'm flattered. I'm not interested, though. I hope you have a great day. Done. You know, walk away. That's it. That's all it needs to be. That's it.
Yeah, definitely still struggling with the confidence in that realm.
That comes with time.
I know.
It does.
The confidence to set boundaries. Also, like, prioritize yourself, not put up with things and people that are unnecessary. Yeah. There's so much under the confidence umbrella.
There is so much, but, you know, in order to sort of wrap things up, why don't we talk about ways to improve self-confidence?
I feel like you have the most like experience and knowledge and wisdom just from having a couple years to my senior.
A decade and a bit. Who's counting?
Apparently you.
Look, I heard this quote and I absolutely love it. Self-confidence is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And what I mean by that is the way in which you live your life, whether you live it confidently, assertively, with purpose, that leads to doors being opened for you, wherever you go. If you live your life anxious, afraid, unsure of yourself, life is passing you by. So it is absolutely crucial to focus on building your confidence up. And it's obviously easier said than done, but there are a few things that you can do.
Fake it till you make it.
Look,
it's
frankly,
huge.
honestly, people laugh at that, but it's one of the best things you can do. It really is. There's this study that was, done about, everybody knows this study essentially. If you fake a smile, if you look at yourself in the mirror and you smile, you trick your brain into thinking that you're happy. Science. It's science, okay? And it works the same way if you actively behave in a certain way when you are in situations and you are feeling unsure of yourself, if you make sure your body language is straight and strong and your shoulders are square, if you focus on looking somebody in the eye and maintaining that eye contact, you know, if you smile, if you fake that confidence, you trick your brain into feeling confident, and the easier it gets. You know, I see people on TikTok, all your little Gen Zers, you know, doing, oh, romanticize your life, go and do this and sit in a cafe and whatever. Same thing. It's the same thing.
Do it. Like,
yeah, do it. It's the exact same thing with confidence, you know? Let's start a TikTok, like, hashtag confidence your life. I don't know. No, okay. That was millennial cringe.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway. I think another massive one is doing things that you love and that you're good at.
And also jotting that down. If you are doubting yourself or you're feeling like I don't know what I'm good at, I don't feel great right now, make a list. What are things you like about yourself? What are things you are good at? What are things you are capable of? Make a list, write it down, because also when it's like physical and you see it on paper, I feel like it just helps so much more.
Totally. Like, my desk is covered in Post-its. And, you know, it could be something like, hey, I'm really good at, like, running. I'm really good at taking nice pictures. I'm really good at playing a certain instrument, whatever it is. And it's really great if those things are things you can improve upon as well, right? Because then you see the results of the work that you're putting into things.
And that just builds confidence in those areas.
It totally does.
Transfer into other areas of your life.
And it also impacts your social confidence, because now here's something you can talk about with passion and something you can, you know, bring into a group setting. You have something to say now. You have something to add to the conversation. So all of these things are really like, they all come together.
And also I feel like passion is very, very visible.
It's so attractive.
If you hear someone talking about something they're passionate about or something they love, you can see, like, it's a beautiful thing to see.
Shine.
Like,
they
it's
glow.
They glow.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. Mm-hmm. If I talk about my dog, my face changes.
Ask her about Billy if you want to see a
big
smile.
If you see me in the street, ask me how Billy is. Instant friends.
Like, oh, like, oh my God.
No joke. And yeah, you touched on this, but I think just to end the conversation here, I want to challenge you all to do one thing when you turn us off. Get your notes on your phone out, get a pen and a paper, and I want you to write down 5 things you love about yourself. Not 5 things you think other people love about you.
And not 5 things that you love doing for others.
And not 5 things... I've run out of ideas. Just 5 things you love about yourself now.
Whether that's you're a good drawer, you have eyes that you like, you got a cute nose, you got
what
a
do
cute
you love
butt.
about yourself?
I like my eyes.
That's
I
nice.
like my eyes. What do you love about yourself?
I love that I'm nice.
Oh, she's extending beyond the physical. I gotta learn a thing or two from her. I'm also nice.
So let us know in the You are nice.
That sounded so like
it sounded
BS.
bad, but it's true. You are nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm shy though. It can. I have RBF, so you gotta like talk to me first, like be like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, then I switch on. And I got a little smile, but to protect myself from the scary world, if you just see me walk in, I will have a resting bleep face.
And I'm always smiling.
Sure. I'm scared of looking approachable because I will have the wrong people come up to me.
No, you're scared. Yeah, you are. You're scared of looking approachable because you don't know how to handle the situations. Whereas I don't mind being approached because I know how to shut down situations that are unwanted.
But mine also stems from being like literally a prepubescent little teenager and being catcalled.
Fair.
That was not fun.
Happened to me as well. 14 years old, walking home in my school uniform.
Yeah. Like,
a fire truck. I'm not kidding. Firemen.
No.
Yeah.
Ew.
I know.
Ew.
It was very gross.
Yeah, I was like 11 or 12. I'd be walking like not even a 5-minute walk to go meet my friends, just alone on the street. I was fine. It was a better time back then. A little bit safer on the streets of Vancouver. But I'd be walking and then I'd be catcalled by these creepy men and I would be terrified. So I just adopted a less approachable face because I am scared of people. I gotta work on that.
We all got work to do, but we're doing it. If you like affirmations, we've got a ton on our Instagram and on our TikTok. We love to talk to ourselves in a loving way and start our days with positive affirmations. And make sure you let us know in the comments what are some things you love about yourselves.
We would love to hear.
We would love to hear. And on that note, we'll see you next week.
Catch you next time.
Bye. Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate your input, so feel free to reach out to us with any feedback, comments, or suggestions for future episodes.
If you would like to support us, please be sure to leave us a rating and review on your favorite platform and subscribe so you never miss us.
See you next week.
Toodles.